Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents Podcast. We are super excited, pumped, motivated, inspired already because I've known our guest, Bryce McKinley, this year. I've met him. I've heard his story. It's phenomenal. It is super inspiring, and I'm excited that you're here. So let me introduce, at least really quickly, Mr. Bryce McKinley. Husband, dad, master persuasion artist, founder of Every House, founder of the REI Results Academy. And REI Results is, you guys have built a massive wholesale real estate investment company in the past several years. And you guys do like 40 plus transactions a month. And you're also in retail, and you're in X, Y, Z, all this stuff. So Bryce, typically I don't have a lot of single family guests on our show because it's commercial real estate. However, the moment I heard you and met you, and I was like, man, I absolutely need to have you on the show because it's so inspiring, and to hear everything you're doing. But let me turn it over to you, my friend. In your own words, please tell us who you are and what you do, and we'll get started here.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Abel, first and foremost, thank you for having me on your platform. It's always an honor and a pleasure to hang out with guys like you that are doing big things. And I don't necessarily look at myself as a guy that does big things. I just do what I do, and that's work, right? It's one of those three things you just can't teach anybody, is a good work ethic, and something that we talk about within our coaching program, within our own organization, and things like that. So, a little bit about me. If you don't know who I am, I'm an international keynote speaker. Like Abel said, I am a husband, I am a dad, and a servant of the Most High God. I've been a faith believing. I'm not into like religion as much as I'm into relationship, and that's a whole nother conversation I'm not afraid to get into. But
as far as that's awesome, man. Well, praise God, and thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Jesus is my bro. Like, I call him bro. He's kind of gangster to me, right? That's how I look at it. And I'm sure we'll get into why here in just a minute. But yeah, I predominantly wholesale real estate, and because of the volume that we do, I mean, we're doing 40 to 50 transactions a month in 5 markets. So that's a couple hundred transactions a month. And we're doing it completely virtual. And
maybe I missed the 5 markets part. So you guys are doing 200 deals a month. Woo! That's some serious volume, man. So sorry to interrupt you. I just got to say that again.
No, I appreciate that. I've been super blessed. I don't know everything. I'll be the first to admit it. I do know, however, what it takes. And I think that that's really helped propel me and guide and direct me in this space. Like I was telling you before we got started, I know very little about commercial and or multifamily. I've got a few doors under my belt. Between my partner and I and our organization, we've got a little under 1,200 doors in our portfolio. Most of them are single family.
Let me pause here. You're like 1,200 doors. So let me say that again. Holy moly. Okay, keep going.
I think
sorry to interrupt again.
90 of them are in one complex, and that was an opportunity to get into some multifamily. But that's it. Like everything else is, the 99% of it's all, single family. But it hasn't always been like that. We got here because of a combination of partnerships and relationships and just blood, sweat, and tears. I didn't know anything about real estate 9-10 years ago. Not a thing. I came from the corporate world. I was a corporate consultant for Ford and Nissan and Toyota, Honda, Tyco Corporation, and travel the world speaking and teaching in the corporate world, sales and persuasion and sales implementation. That's my background. I don't know all of the marketing stuff. I don't know all the analytical and tracking stuff. I've always been able to build a business by hiring and finding great people with those other skills. So, 99% of what we do is single family, like you mentioned. It's wholesale. And then we get to cherry pick because we have a better process and because we have been virtual. We have little to no overhead other than some systems to make and streamline things. But that's where I'm at and who I am when it comes to real estate.
Yeah, I love it. That's just an amazing business you've built in a short period of time. And the 10 years is pretty short to this kind of volume. It took me, my listeners know, it took me 10 years to buy 8 single family houses. So a little different than doing 200 deals in a month in 10 years. And man, that's just phenomenal. So that, as a high level, thank you for sharing, because I think this is really good, but you weren't always in real estate. And you had that corporate career beforehand. Sounds like you did extremely well in that area too. What got you into real estate, or why the switch? What happened? What was it that said, this is the right way to go, and how to do it?
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you asked. So for me, my story kind of goes back prior to 10 years when I got into real estate. For me, I didn't realize that you didn't need a realtor to buy a house. I was of the mindset, just like everybody else, you need to go through that that transactional series of events. I didn't know that you could go and change your own life by just talking to people. And the reason I say that is because I was not a great human as a teenager. And I found through a series of unfortunate events and how, Sharpen came about, and we'll talk about that here in a second, was by leaning on those that are around me, right? There's a quote that kind of gets thrown around, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with. Well, that's the truth. I grew up in a very strict, religious, almost cult-like doctrine. My parents separated when I was young. And my mom was working 10, 12, 13 hours as a single mom and living in subsidized housing. Mm-hmm. I was hanging out with gangbangers and dope dealers and crackheads when my mom's working. And I'm a teenager kind of raising myself. And got wrapped up in some pretty hefty criminal charges. Mm-hmm. And sitting there facing multiple life sentences.
Wow.
By the grace of God, I didn't know it at the time, being acquitted, I had a second chance at life. And my uncle grabbed me by my ear, took me to Davenport, Iowa, sleeping on his couch, detailing cars at a car dealership. Mm-hmm. That's where my story starts.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it's like, how did I get into real estate? Because of the work ethic that I had and the processes that I learned when I was young. And here's what happened. I seen that I had this second chance. I seen that there was light at the end of the tunnel. I seen that there was light casting the shadow. And some of you watching this are like, I just want to get started in real estate, let alone multifamily. I'm overwhelmed. I got this, I've got that. And if that's the case, by the end of this interview, I want to inspire you that you can do it too. I'm not the brightest crayon in the box. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I just knew what it took, and that was pure grit and determination. Everybody says you got to find your why. I don't believe that. I got to find out why not. If you can find out why not, then you're on to something. I believe that. And so here I am. I'm a 17, 18-year-old punk kid detailing cars. I look like a little gangster out in the wash bay, and I'm seeing all these nice cars, wealthy men, wealthy women, driving vehicles. I'm like, I could do this. I could do this. I begged my uncle. I kept asking, right? They say, shoot your shot. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. I begged and begged and begged. And one day, it was a snowy December afternoon. None of the salesmen had showed up at the dealership. My uncle's like, this is your shot. So this podcast, the fact that you're listening to it right now, this is your shot. And so I'm like, great. And I went to work, opened up the phone book. We had phone books. You remember those, Abel?
Yeah, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I opened up the phone book and I just went and I started dialing. Wouldn't you know it, over the next 6.5, 7 hours, I sold 3 cars in a blizzard, trucks, 2 trucks in a car.
That is awesome.
I was hooked. I was hooked on the chase. I was hooked on the rush of closing a deal. Little did I know that the average, and still to this day, the national average is between 11 and 12 cars a month. I would go to average over a 10-year span in the car industry, in the automotive industry, about 75 cars a month. It's like 70.
Holy moly. Yeah. And it's too funny. I sold cars for a couple of years at Coastal Motor Cars in Corpus Christi. And
okay, so
during that time, 75 cars is probably what our entire dealership, it was a smaller dealership in Corpus, but what we did. And so as an individual doing 75, that the volume is tremendous. Holy
And it was non-fleet. It was non-fleet. I wasn't selling like
one
packages.
by one. Yeah.
Exactly. But I had a process, and that's what separated me from all these other, gurus out there that do 20 deals a month with 200 people on their team. So everybody's starving, like I can't stress that enough. Like those guys, sure, they're doing big business, but everybody's starving, in my opinion. All that to say, I ended up getting recruited out of my dealership. I was traveling the world with Ford Motor Company. Later, I was picked up by Nissan, Toyota, and Honda. And then even more so in the corporate world by like Owens Corning's. I was teaching sales to, door-to-door men, roof and siding and window guys. I was teaching sales and persuasion to Pacheco Corporation. I was helping, hostage negotiations in the Pentagon, things like that. And it just kind of kept spiraling out of control in a good way.
Yeah. Wow.
And
hostage negotiations.
What's that?
I said hostage negotiations. Even that's everything that you're mentioning. It's a lot of spiral out in a good way.
Yeah. I was blessed. I mean, here I am 24, 25 years old and doing tens of millions of dollars in contract work. I was super blessed.
And a turnaround story from where you were, in trouble, life in danger, facing one route was, potentially facing jail for the rest of your life. On the other hand, thank you, Lord, it sounds like your family brought you in, changed things around. And so you made a huge pivotal change in your life. And that's the direction. I love the process part of it. I love that.
I appreciate that. And that's one of the things. It's like I could stop there and just jump to real estate, right? But I wasn't ready yet. I believe that you don't go to opportunities, you grow to opportunities. And so here I am in this, precarious position. I'm making lots of money. I'm traveling. My wife at the time, we had a somewhat of an open relationship. We had a child that was fathered by somebody else. It was just, we were just having fun. And then this child passed away. Mm. And it wasn't an accident. It was due to some negligence. And so we went through some legal battles and lawsuits and things of that nature. And my wife would end up taking her life 2 years later. But what I didn't say is, you remember that like cult-like religion? Her mom was my Sunday school teacher. I had known this lady all of my life. It wasn't just like some fling that we got married. No, this was a relationship that I had created, and it was just taken away from me. So everything that I knew about God the second time around, I hated, and I went off the deep end, close to $80 million up my nose and in a bottle, dope, drugs, crime. I was just didn't care. I was on a war path. I had no care. And then I found out this female that I had been in this relationship with during that 18-month period, off and on, we were going to have a baby. And I thought that was going to be my why. I thought that was going to be the driving factor. I didn't know it at the time. That wasn't the case. But I sobered up in March of 2010. And unfortunately, she couldn't do the same. And by late 2010, a few months old now, we had the baby, found out she was still doing some of the drugs that we had been doing. And I ended up fighting for custody. Going through that nasty custody battle, not only would I lose these corporate contracts that I had with drama that she created and just stepping away from my responsibilities, focused on getting my boy, I come home. I could not come home. I come home to her like OD. That's what caused the custody battle. But going through this custody battle, losing the last couple $100,000 that I had left in the bank, I found myself sleeping in my car. I'd just gotten one sole custody of my boy. I'm homeless, and I'm in North Texas. I have no friends in Texas at the time. I'm not from here. And I'll never forget, it'll be 10 years actually this year, September 28, 2011, the same 40 cal that sits in next to my bed tonight hasn't jammed since, never jammed before, but that night it jammed. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in my mouth. And I knew in that moment that, Abel, I had something greater. You know, my friend Les Brown would say, you've got greatness inside of you. You know, I can't do his voice by any means. But that would be a really interesting pivotal point, because then I knew, that's when I kind of came into my faith and my relationship with God. I gave my life to Christ that night. I woke up the next morning. I had money in the bank. I had an apartment complex call me and say, hey, here's an apartment if you're still looking. Literally within like 48 hours, I had miracle after miracle, like a Lazarus out of the grave miracle happened. And a few weeks later, I would find wholesaling real estate, like at a computer in the library, like on the phone, calling for sale by owners, calling Zillow for sale by owners, calling Craigslist posts from other investors and negotiating, and contracted a lot of deals. So that's how I got into real estate. And that's kind of the story that led it up to it. But I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the backside. I didn't know the disposition side. I didn't know the title. I just knew how to talk to people and help solve their problems. So 23 transactions or contracts my first month ended up being 9 closings. I'm like, well, that was cool. I made a bunch of money. Let's do it again. But let's find somebody to fix this back end problem, right? The consultant in me started evaluating my own business, found a local company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. They were looking for acquisitions persons, went through the hiring process. That was a blessing in disguise. Of course, I got hired, right? But I didn't want to work for somebody. I wanted to work with somebody's organization. So, of course, I pitched them my consult and we negotiated. They weren't very happy at first. They told me, like, hey, come back, do it again. So I did. 37 transactions, my second full month in the business. We closed 35 of them. And the rest is history, man. Fast forward, 10 years, 9.5 years. Man, my average, I even took a 1.5 year hiatus because I left that partnership about 2 years ago. It'll be 3 years in October this year. Fast forward, it's like our organization's done 55 transactions per month. And I even took a hiatus for a little while. And so the last couple of years, stepping away from their organization because they wanted to stay local and they had some other things that were kind of falling apart personally in their relationships and whatnot. I had to do what was best for my family, and that was get my message out to the world. And that's what I've been doing these last 3 years, and it's the best decision I ever made, because now we're in 5 markets, doing 40+ deals in each market. By the way, 100% virtual. I've only walked 5 properties in almost 10,000 transactions. Been super blessed between my team and I and what we've done.
Oh my gosh. So let me we could end the show here, and somebody would absolutely, listening to this, it took a lot of notes, maybe a couple of tears here and there, and will absolutely go on to do amazing things just from what you said already in these first 18 to 20 minutes. And I want to thank you so much for, being vulnerable, being open, sharing with us some of the hardest things that I could imagine that, I'd have to go through. I'm thinking about my little one. I'm like, oh man, I couldn't even do it. But you muscled through it. You muscled on. You realized, hey, the Lord is with you. And man, you've changed so many people's lives, your own, your family, people around you, and others that you now coach for. It's amazing, man. So just praise God for just sharing.
That's it. That's it. And we talk about, I said I'd get to sharpen, and I appreciate that, Abel. At the end of the day, this isn't about me. This isn't even about you. And I'm talking to you like watching this or listening to this on the replay. Like, this isn't about you. This isn't about me. This is about the community and the human race, right? Like, what can we do together? I think, whether you agree or disagree with the politics, like Barack Obama said it best, we're better together. We're better together. And, I fast forward and talk about, my non-for-profit, my ministries, that the vehicle, real estate to me is just a vehicle. Sharpen, it's a group of men that we go out, we hang out with gangbangers, dope dealers, hookers, prostitutes, homeless, and we feed them, we hang out, we do pizza parties,
Just human being stuff right there, right? Just be a good human being, man, to some people that absolutely could use another good human being in their life to say hello and shake a hand and extend a little time with them, right?
And that's what sharpen is. Like, when people ask me, like, what's Coach Sharpen? It's like, well, like the Bible says, whether you agree with the Bible or not, you can't deny that it's the #1 best-selling book of all time. The Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, so does one another to his brother. Mm-hmm. His mankind is like his race, right? Like human race. And so for me, I wear it backwards. So that way, when I do go live and things like that, I could see it not only for myself, but for others. But it also stands for, it's an acronym for selflessly helping already people eager for nurturing. Let me repeat that. Selflessly helping already people eager for nurturing. I'm picky about who I work with, and I only work with people that are serious about working with me. And I think that that's one of my principles that has separated me from others that are in my industry that do what I do. I don't JV deals. I don't have time for it. I don't want to reevaluate everybody in their brother's deal because they're all learning from those other guys. I don't have time to teach you and do a deal with you. So, and it's not a arrogant thing. It's just a confident thing. It's like, I've got a whole bunch of team members that I have to support, as well as I need them to respect their own time and things like that. So, and that's where the same thing goes into my ministry. It's selflessly helping, right? That they have to be eager.
There's so much here. So let me, there's a couple of things, right? Just to go back to, I'm man, a little lost for words for one part of it, but the fact that you selflessly helping already, say it again, selflessly helping already
people.
Okay.
Eager for nurturing.
There's a difference of people that ask me all the time. I guess I'm getting a little bit more exposure. Start our podcast, get out there. Here's how I'm doing it. And people ask me for assistance. Facebook, Instant Messenger, LinkedIn, people emailing me, people calling me. And it's funny because I know there's an even hurdle to cross to say, I got to get some courage to reach out to somebody. And the part of it is once they do, and I do say, hey, well, here's a couple of resources. Check this out. Go do X, Y, and Z. There's a difference between somebody that takes that and says, man, I took that, I learned it, now I'm applying it. What next? As opposed to the person that I never hear from again, or maybe they thought that just with the call that they're going to have some success, or don't you have a program that I could sign up for and pay for? I'm like, well, yeah, but it's not going to lead you to, you could pay me 15 grand if you want to pay me 15 grand. The part of it is, if you don't do it yourself, it's not going to change anything. Right. And so I'm imagining you're coming across the people that are in a similar mindset. Right. So maybe you can,
well, I tested this theory. Well, I tested this theory. It's like, Dr. Eric Thomas, right? The guy that talks about the guru taking his student out, pulling him underwater. You got to be as hungry for your first breath there. Like breathe, exactly. Like I've spoke with him, Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, Les Brown, Ty Lopez. And when we go to these seminars that these guys have hired me to speak at, like there's 5,000 to 10,000 people sitting in these audience, right? I don't have a problem. I will give my personal cell phone number out. You know why? Because 99% of them will even call or text, let alone call back or text the second time.
Mm-hmm. Very few.
And I tested this theory like a year ago, pre-COVID, right? A year and a half ago, pre-COVID, whatever. I'm like, I'm going to give my number to 100 people. And I did that to every mastermind that I went to that was over 100 people. I literally took 100 business cards, passed them out, and I hate business cards, by the way. You know how many calls I got out of 800-900 different events, like people that I pass cards out?
Yeah.
2.
Oh,
2.
Wow. Yeah.
I got emails. It's like my cell phone number's on there. Call me.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You got to be hungry.
I completely understand. You got to be hungry in Les Brown's voice. And it's just I learned this from one of my coaches, and it was the OODA loop model, OODA loop model. And I share that often. Everyone with eyes can observe, or everybody that sees something, you observe it. The orient yourself. Maybe only 70% of the people can orient themselves to what's going on. The decision, the D, like, there's 10% or whatever the lower percent actually make a decision, but then the people that act, I can say that I want to go do it and I've made a decision, but the act is like 3 or 4%, like 2% in this example that actually called you. And I understand the test part of it. And out of all the people that do reach out, it's the same, but the ones that do, and I guess I never realized it myself, because my wife always says, oh, if you're talking about something, you're going to do it. That's what she says. Oh, well, if you're telling me what you plan to do, she's like, you're not asking me for permission. She's like, you're already saying you're going to go do this. And I laugh, but I kind of think about it. I go, oh, not everyone else operates the same way. I didn't realize that either. If I'm talking,
it's really lonely up here as an entrepreneur, Abel. Yeah. And I love that you shared that, because these are conversations that other entrepreneurs that are in relationships need to hear. Like, my wife has said the same thing. Why don't you just do it and quit talking about it? Because I know you're going to do it with or without my permission. You're going to find somebody else to do it, right? Like, I love that you've had that conversation. And us men and women as entrepreneurs, we need to hear you're not the only one out there on your island thinking of these amazing things that you can do to change the world. So keep pushing. Keep pushing.
I love it. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. And so you're now a public speaker on some amazing stages and platforms. So we are super pumped to having you on our platform. How did that begin for you? I know this is real estate, and we're wrapping in real estate anyways, but we talk about so much other stuff on the show. And I think people can reach out to you later to figure out how to, coaching for wholesale and stuff like that. How in the world did that occur? Did somebody ask you? Did you just start? speaking a word and somebody heard you like I did, and I was like, man, I need you on my stage. What happened?
Yeah, so I love that question. I don't get that question very often. You know, everybody in this industry is like, oh, you gotta, your network is your net worth. You gotta go to real estate meetups.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I mean, think about it, Abel. We just talked about how many people actually call you back, number one. Yeah. Number two, the other side of that coin is how many times have you been to a meetup and it's like, oh my gosh, all they did was talk about themselves.
Yeah.
And I understand enough about the human psychology that that's a natural thing. And so I'm not too upset about it. But I just don't find it a great use of my time to be like, oh, I did this, I did this. I want to give you value. Like, I'm actually more excited to when we start talking about the sales language and the deal flow and how our deals are different so that somebody can take it and run with it and be like, hey, Bryce, I learned this from you. Like, my 5 steps to every conversation. I'm more interested in somebody taking it and going and making a whole bunch of money and coming back and be like, dude, you changed my life. And I'm like, great, let's go work together. Let's change someone else's life. That's what I get excited about. And so how I got involved in the speaking coaching arena after I made a decision that that's what I was going to do is, one, I had some really, really highly influential connections. I can't deny that. But that was after the fact. You see, I did what everybody else did. I went to a real estate meetup. I was like, man, remember my partnership that I left? I was like, man, we got to get the word out there and like see what other people are doing and maybe we partner or whatever. So I went to a real estate meetup because that's what everybody said you should do.
That's what you do. Yeah.
So I went and I realized, well, this is just a big sausage fest of everybody seeing who's got the biggest pocketbook.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just listening to people and I finally had someone that was super intelligent and his name, well, it doesn't matter what his name was. He's very, very influential for a short amount of time in this industry. And he's like, I'm trying to create more of this and this and this. And what is it that you do? I'm like, dude, that's a great question. You're the first one all night to ask what I do. This is what we do.
There's a shocker, right?
Yeah. And he's like, oh, wow. So you just wholesale. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, we don't really have time for anything else. Every once in a while, we take something down and we own it ourselves. He's like, well, how much are you doing? I'm like, I think we closed like 67 that month. I'm like, when I told him this at the time, This was just the one market. I'm like, I think it was like 50 or 60 deals. I don't remember what it was. He's like, what?
What? Yeah.
Yeah, we do that every month. And he's like, how big is your team? I'm like, well, I've got my assistant and my 2 partners, me, and another acquisition person. There's 5 of us.
Crushing. Yeah.
He's like, what? And so we sat down, we went to lunch and ended up, my very first speaking engagement was on his stage here in Texas at a local meetup that really kind of blew up and he did some really cool stuff with it. And then from there, it was like, people just started reaching out. Like, what do you do? How do you do it? And I'm not a big person on relationships, Abel. Like that's one of my flaws, if you would say. Like, I'm not going to reach back out and like, hey, let's go do a deal together. Like, you want to run with me? You better run as fast as me.
Better keep up, or better
try to. Because I'm not great at relationships. I'm great at seeing people's potential and putting the right butts in the seat. That's my talent. Yeah. That's my talent. And so I've been blessed, now my new business partner, well, new, but last year and a half business partner to basically double everything that I was doing after I took that hiatus off. I mean, this guy, he runs just as fast, if not faster than me some days. And I'm like, hey, we got this person. He's like, great, I'll put him here. And that's been really the key to my success is knowing my strengths, but even knowing my weaknesses and allowing other people to fill those holes and fill those voids. And so that's how I got into the speaking world and when it pertains to real estate and motivational stuff, because I was already really speaking and teaching and training in the corporate world. But the last like 3.5 years, once that individual had me, somebody else that he had speaking was like, hey, you need to speak over here. I went to a massive mastermind out of the country at a big, there was like 10,000 people and then kind of just shared it out. Next thing you know, I'm in LA at a mastermind with Ty Lopez and Les Brown, and they're like, "We need you to speak over here." And then Tony Robbins asked me to come to his mastermind. And then I went with Matt and Caleb Maddox and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And it just dominoed like that way.
Wow.
A lot of the speaking that I do is not even really in real estate. I realize that now thinking about that. It's like I just did a door-to-door conference with Sam Taggart and John Maxwell, Hal Elrod, and Brad Lee, a couple months ago. I don't know. I just filled in for somebody that it went missing. It's kind of cool.
Some amazing folks. Your story, I mean, the moment I heard it, I was like, man, that I need to connect and I need to have you on our platform. We need to inspire others and we need to record it and we need to get your message out there. And it was awesome just to hear it. And now hearing like, oh yeah, some massive stages. I guess I was right. They were right. They get you out of the area. But yeah, Maxwell, he's written some amazing Christian and leadership books. Hal Elrod, I knew him from my Cutco days. I used to sell Cutco, and he was a Cutco guy. And his story is super inspirational. If you haven't heard The Miracle Morning, read just the first 10 pages of his personal story is nuts. And just everything that you're doing, man. I'm appreciative that you'd spend a few minutes of our time and of your time and hang out with us.
It's my pleasure. This is bigger than me. I got to share. This was my pinnacle. You know how every boy or girl has a dream. Like when I was a kid, I wanted the penthouse office. I had that by 22, and I was like, yeah, that's not cool anymore. Like I'm looking for my next pinnacle, but this was mine. I got to pray over the John Maxwell.
Okay. Oh man, I can see it.
That was like for me. That was like game changer because that was like the pinnacle leader in my life, learning about leadership and business. So when you talked about he wrote books, like I got to really pray over him.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. So.
Tremendous. And to hear you speak openly about being Christ follower is super inspiring as well. If you haven't heard or been on enough shows as you're listening, you in the audience, that's what 5 talents is, Matthew 25 and 14 through 30. And, but anyways, just having a great individual like yourself on our show, I think it's going to speak volumes for many people that are going to hear this and inspired and take some action. Why don't you do this? We've got a few minutes. I want to be respectful of your time. I'd love to hear about these 5 steps to every conversation.
I've got an extra 30 minutes.
Okay, well, we may take a few more then.
About 20 extra minutes.
Okay, very good. Well, what are the 5 steps to every conversation? Maybe a good one to kind of cover. And then we want to make sure to get out, where to contact you, where to reach you and all that good stuff. Whatever topic you think would be the most beneficial for our audience. We've got passive investors, people that don't want to do anything we're talking about, but they have some liquidity, net worth, high W-2 earners. They want to invest and they're educating themselves. And then another half of our guests, they want to do exactly what we're doing. So any of this information to share with them would be amazing.
I love that. And that's what I love about the 5-step conversation. And so I think that it's right on point to share if that's the audience, right, that you generally have listened to your podcast. Because what I teach can actually be applied to anything.
Perfect.
I mean, you want your kids to pick up their room? Apply this 5-step conversation pattern. You want your wife to do the dishes? Wives, you want your husbands to pick up their laundry? Like, just apply this simple 5-step process to your conversation. And you'll see, Abel, as I lay this out for you, we've already done that just in our interaction here today. Right?
All right.
I'm excited. So let's do this. I want you to kind of picture with me for a second going to the gym. Now, whether you're super fit like Abel or maybe not so much like me, no, I'm just kidding. I don't know what you're fit like. But
I've got a shape. It's just probably more of the round shape. But go ahead, man. Go ahead.
It's not the shape you first picture going to the gym. So you're with me, Abel. We would look at the gym as like, oh, I know what needs that. Yeah. Now, here's the deal. At the end of the day, I think of the 5 steps of the conversation as if you were going to the gym. What's the first thing you do, Abel, when you go to the gym so that you don't get hurt or anything like that in your workout? What's the very first thing?
Get a little stretch on.
Yeah, you warm up.
All right, a little warm up.
That's it. Step number one is you warm up, and you better make sure that you warm up with good form, because otherwise you'll hurt yourself. You'll break something. You'll tear something, right?
Yep.
So for me, I like acronyms. Form is an acronym. FORM. Notice two different hands. If you're watching the video, there's two different hands here. I got 3 fingers on one. If you're listening, one on the other. Family, occupation, recreation always solves motivation. So step number one is we warm with form. We always warm with form. So gosh, role play with me here, Abel. Gosh, Abel, it's awfully quiet over there. Are you working from home like everybody else?
Excuse me. Yes, I'm working from home. We haven't been in the office for a while.
You're in the home office. You know, what kind of work do you do?
I'm in real estate. So
you're in real estate. That's exciting. How long have you been doing that?
Since 2008. So it's been a few years.
Is this a family business, or is this just something you're doing on your own?
It is family business now. Me and my wife and now my 3-year-old walks some properties with us.
Oh, wow. 3 girls and a wife? Holy cow. What do you go do for fun when you want some relief from the estrogen?
No, my 3-year-old daughter.
I thought you said 3 girls. Okay.
No,
let's just say it was 3 girls.
However,
hold on, stop, Abel. This is what I love about my process.
Yeah.
You see how he wanted to correct me? And he's like, no, it's this. And he wanted to tell me more because of what I'm doing. And I'll show you guys in a minute what I just did. So let's say we talked about real estate. We talked about what he does to get some estrogen relief, because I mistakenly thought he said 3 girls. And let's say that, so we got recreation, we got family, we got occupation, right? Mm-hmm. So now I know he's long-term real estate because he wants to leave a legacy for his 3 girls, hypothetically. He doesn't have 3 girls. He's got a 3-year-old.
My wife, my daughter, and my dog is a female dog, so we're good. 3 girls, yeah, a lot of.
Yeah, you got 3 girls. There you go.
Yep.
So now I know he's got a dog. He's got a 3-year-old. He's got a wife. He's been married how many years? 10 years? 20 years?
More than 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned all this stuff that quick. Now I know how to solve his problem over here. Because this is important. He gets stressed out when this happens. He does this type of work, whatever. That's step 1 in the conversation.
Form, family, occupation, recreation. There's your building rapport. You got to know a little bit about, and then my motivation is absolutely to create wealth.
So I don't really like the word building rapport. And that's just the NLP practitioner in me. Like, building rapport is making sure that our eyes are in sync, our body language is in sync, our mannerisms, our tonalities, our mirroring, matching, and pacing. Rapport is a combination of all of that. Most people don't understand that. Mm-hmm. And so you can do that quicker, faster, and more effective with that acronym. So we warm with form. This is step number 1.
With form. We warm up with form. Okay.
Yeah, we warm up with form, right? So we're at the gym. We warmed up. We did it with good form. What's step number 2 at the gym? Do you go right to the bench and start bench pressing 300 pounds?
No, we get a little lighter first.
Yeah, you got to move the needle. Or step 2, you got to bridge the gap. You got to move the needle. Now you went from trying to build rapport to starting to get into the business, and you start this teeter-totter process. And how I do it is simply this. Abel, most of the time, people that I talk to, they want to know how I do it, what I do, and more importantly, how much I can offer for their house, or how much the term is going to be when I lend on this money. Do you have those same types of questions?
Yeah, I do.
And besides that, help me understand why you're looking for a loan, or what type of property, or whatever, right? Here's what happens. You see, notice he said, yeah, I do. Or he would have, yes, and do you do this? He would have said yes, and or what questions else do you have? There's only one answer is yes, I have those same types of questions. And I want to know this, and this. But I really want to know this, or this. So now you already know what your objection is going to be when you get done with the conversation. So subconsciously, you are already tricking your person in the communication event to give you their objection when you start to move the needle.
Yeah, you have the same type of questions. Yeah. And actually this and this and this as well.
Here's why that works. Society, from beginning of time, wants to keep up with the Joneses. We've all heard that, right? Mm-hmm. People want to feel like other people that have had success in their current situation, but future success. People want the nice car. So what do? They do the things that takes to get the nice car. So if we bridge the gap, if we make the person in the current reality feel like the person that's in their desired reality, guess what? We can put them back in their current reality by step 3. And guess who's in the middle of their current and desired reality? Me, the person in the middle. Because step number 3, when you're at the gym and you start bench pressing, rep 8, rep 9. Step number 3 is creating and asking defeating questions. Step number 3 at the gym, you start to create a limiting belief. You're not any less strong. You're actually stronger. Your brain just wants to quit. You have a muscle fatigue, right?
Yeah.
So if you ask questions like, now, tell me why you want to sell this house today. Well, this, and this happened. Oh, wow, that's got to be overwhelming. Like, why did they do that? They'll just give you more information. And I'm about to show you what I've been doing this whole time, because step number 3, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You ask defeating questions. That's step number 3. You create a limiting belief in your communication partner's mind so that you can truly solve their problem. They may want $200,000 for that 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1-car garage. Well, that's not what it's worth. That's what it's worth if it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, and you need updates. So help me understand, how did you get to that number? Oh, you looked on Zillow. That makes sense. Do you know how that works? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. May I explain? Can I tell you how? Yeah, you can, but I don't want to hear it. Versus, may I explain? I know I'm going really fast for time's sake. Okay. You guys can go back and replay and give Abel a whole bunch of views and listen. So this is going to be good, and I know it'll change someone's life. Here's the thing. If you're at the gym, you have this limiting belief that you're no longer as strong as you were when you walked in the door. What do you do with the bar? When you're having rep 9, rep 10, what do? You rack it, right? You rack the bar, you close out your set. When that happens in a communication event, step number 4 is the objective. Close the deal, ask for the money, ask for the clothes to be picked up. There's no difference in the model. You close out your set. That's it. And what do you do when you're done working out? You get up like me and Abel and just go get a cheeseburger? No. You can't just go get a burger. You got to cool down, right? You got to stretch out, warm down. And what do we always do? We always warm with
a form.
Yes. Man, Abel, I'm so glad that we got this checked off our list today. Thank you for picking up your room, little Sally, little Johnny. Like, how do you want to celebrate? You want to go have a dinner? Do you want to have a steak dinner? You going to go fishing? Remember, we warm with form. Occupation, recreation. You got to get back to work now? Like, what are you doing the rest of the day?
Yeah, we got to go.
When you do that,
I love it.
You've closed that loop. You've closed that, and now you just created a lasting impression for a lasting business relationship, and they'll love you. I've got deals that come to me. I just got off the phone right before our podcast with the guy that we haven't even closed on his house. He wants to give me the keys to put a lockbox so that we can start talking about the other 3 deals.
Yeah,
because he loves us.
There you go.
My acquisition person just contracted this house 2 days ago. He's already got 3 more. I love this process. You guys do good business. Boom. And all we did was have a better conversation. Now, here's the thing. Those are the 5 pieces of the puzzle for every communication event. Abel, this will even help you asking your questions in your podcast. The glue that holds the puzzle pieces together is, remember right in the middle of the muck at the gym when you couldn't do it no more and you racked the bar?
Yep.
RAC to me is an acronym. RAQ. Repeat, assign a feeling or emotion, and ask a question. How many times have you walked a property and you felt like, well, yeah, we're definitely going to have to change this out? Role play with me, Abel. Going to definitely have to change this roof here out. That's going to be 20 or 30 grand, and paint this wall. And have you painted a wall lately? Yeah.
Man,
that's what everybody else does. That's
man,
what
I don't
everybody
have the
else
money
does.
to do all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what if you said this? Abel, did you pick this color or was it your wife?
My wife picked the color.
Oh, your wife picked the color.
Yeah. Long time ago. It was a while ago.
It was
We've
a
had
while
to deal
ago.
with it. Yeah, we've had to deal with it for so many years.
Gosh, that sounds frustrating. Do you plan on painting this before you sell it?
Oh, I was hoping not to.
You're hoping not to. Yeah, that sounds like it could be a little overwhelming with everything else you have going on. I'm curious. Have you gotten a bid lately to get the paint changed?
No, yes, it was a little too expensive. It was quite
Notice, even in this mock role play, Abel knows what to say because it's challenging a false belief. Like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that. It's overwhelming. I repeated, oh, wow, your wife did it? That's got to be frustrating. Have you gotten any bids or estimates to get that up to 2021 standards? I didn't say, like, you should really change this out. I didn't do that. I repeated what he said. I assigned a feeling or an emotion, and then I asked a better question about what he said. That's the glue. Notice, oh, wow, you're in real estate? Repeat. That's exciting. How long have you been doing that? Is that a family business? Oh, wow, you're married? Dude, marriage can be stressful. How long have you been married? Stressful. How long have you been married? People are like, oh, it's always uncomfortable. You got to ask about the family. Like, no, it's not. Just have a conversation.
Yeah.
Abel, you're married? How many years? You said over 10?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's exciting, bro. What's the secret?
Gotta listen to my wife and see what she says.
and now even Abel wants to answer the question because he knows wifey's going to listen to this.
Better answer right.
So that's the 5 steps of the conversation. Warm with form, warm up with form, bridge the gap, make them feel like other people in their current situation that have had success. Defeating questions. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Step number 4 is close the deal. Set the appointment, whatever that objective is. And then step number 5, warm down with form. Family, occupation, recreation always solves motivation. You'll never solve someone's motivation if you don't know what they're for.
Yeah, and then rack it in between. Repeat the question, ask with feeling or emotion, and then ask a question. I love it.
Yeah, repeat what they say, last word or phrase. Assign a feeling or emotion. Assign a feeling. Gosh, that's overwhelming. That sounds stressful. Was you scared? Whatever. Right? And then ask your question.
Look at that. You've done some hostage negotiation in the past as well. Just a little bit of training here, Bryce. Man, that's awesome, dude. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. It's interesting. People are like, gosh, that's overwhelming. I can't do it. Like, just trust the process. Just start warming with form. And once you master that, start bridging the gap and start recognizing that. Once you do that, do the next step. And once you master those 5 steps and use glue, the rack, use that glue every time. I've had people leave our masterminds and message me 30, 40 days later. My business has doubled since I talked to you. My business has tripled. I've had it happen. Implement those 5 steps. And you'll have a lot greater success getting other people what you want. And like my friend Zig Ziglar said, the late great Zig Ziglar, when you help people get what they want, you can have everything that you want.
I love that. What's been one of the models I picked up from him years ago. Actually, my dad showed me Zig, and I've always said it and try to live by it. So this is amazing, Bryce. Amazing conversation. For anybody that wants to get in your world for one thing or another, where do they go reach out to you? And all the links and all the things, just say them out loud. We'll capture them and get them in our show notes.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Abel. So on Facebook, if you search my professional or my personal page. I do not manage my personal page. Sometimes I might. I believe that the most successful should be the most accessible. However, there is some expectations and boundaries that are set there and that I live up to. So on Facebook and LinkedIn and whatnot, it's Bryce, BRYCE McKinley, McKinley. Or you can search at Coach Sharpen on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and all those other fun kid ones or whatever. So it's either Bryce McKinley or Coach Sharpen to reach out to me and my team. And then our website, we can be reached at for our investment company is everyhouse.io. And I highly recommend you getting plugged into our online forum in our academy at REI Results Academy.com. You can go and register there for free. We are literally creating our own social media platform. We've got our app that's coming out here shortly to where we can do deals together. You can join our private coaching, or you can hang around for like our free events that we do. But whatever you do, just don't do nothing. So REIResultsAcademy.com, or reach out to us on social media, Bryce McKinley and or Coach Sharpen.
Coach Sharpen, thank you very much, man. And is there anything else we didn't cover? Anything I didn't ask about you wanted to? Anything in general?
I like that question. I think I love the three principles that I live my life on. And that is this. Number one, you must have a no big deal attitude. Have a no big deal attitude. If you can smile in the worst of situations, you can smile in the best of situations and know that it's going to only get better, brighter. And when you have bad days, just search for the light, right? Like there's a light shining and casting that shadow somewhere. It's just a matter of perspective. Your bad day is just someone else's regular day, and somebody else has always got it worse. So I believe to have a no big deal attitude. The second principle that I live by is know your numbers. Track everything, your KPIs, your phone calls, your conversations, journal, whatever it is, track everything, know your numbers. And then third, last but surely not least, just trust the process. Trust the process. And that can go for anything. Sometimes we have bad days. Trust the process. There's a reason for it. You'll learn something on the other side. Having a great day, trust the process.
Yeah, you're speaking to me, man. You're speaking to me right now, so I love it.
Yeah.
I love
it. Hey,
you
know what they say, where two or three are gathered in his name, it's always going to be a good time, He's in our presence, man.
Absolutely. Well, I have truly appreciated the time. Thank you very much for giving us an extra few minutes too. I don't think our guests are going to mind, and they're going to really get some good value. So if Bryce said something, I know there was multiple things, but if there was one thing that really caught your attention and you've just a little urge to go reach out, do so. Tell him you heard him on our podcast show. I'd be blessed to hear that. And then vice versa, go to our podcast, subscribe, rate, and review. Would do so, and I would be blessed as well. So thank you very much, Bryce. Thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Abel. And God bless you, watching, listening, wherever you are. Have a blessed day. You're too blessed to be stressed. Keep pushing.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco, and we are out. See you guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents Podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who follow their dreams and achieve massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents Podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us your favorite guest. Give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast.